How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Prot Warrior. It's important to keep in mind that not a lot's changed with this tank. It's still a highly offensive tank to play and one of the most enjoyable if you ask me, and it's still kind of fairly vulnerable on big pulls or like boss pulls at first, but gets stronger as the fights progress. So without further ado, let's have a look at the unpruned abilities and the talents for the Prot Warrior in the next patch. So if we were to take a look at the unpruned abilities, the main one we're getting back, and the one I'm probably most excited for, is Execute, which if you've been living under a rock and you don't know what it is, it's basically a high amount of damage to either a player or a target below 20% HP, and it refunds 20% rage if the target doesn't die. So in my opinion, this is going to be a really good one for your off-tank windows, maybe in the last 20% of the fight, where you can push that extra damage and try and get it out there. And where rage doesn't necessarily have to be spent on your defensives, and it could also be great for like finishing trash off in Mythic Plus and granting yourself some rage back for the use of defensive, as well as landing yourself that killing blow so you can get your impending victory or your victory rush back. So yeah, it's a yes from me. I'm really happy to see this one come back. Not to mention that we are actually getting Whirlwind. Now this one's a bit hit and miss for me because it strikes 5 targets around you for minor damage. It kind of seems a little bit lackluster in comparison to Revenge, because the damage in the actual hit cap is not as usable. Like, you can hit 5 targets around you, but Revenge is a frontal cone, so it pretty much hits everybody inside that frontal cone, and it actually hits for more damage too. Revenge is pretty much better in every single way, minus the visual, because Whirlwind, even hitting less targets, is also more expensive on Rage. So to me, I'd like to see the damage go up to make it viable, and maybe remove or even increase the hit cap, just so that it feels that much more usable and like you don't feel like you're wasting rage on it. So moving on, we're also getting Shattering Throwback, which is a massive blessing in disguise, especially in things like PvP if you're a Prot Warrior in PvP, or even, you know, in Mythic Pluses or anything like that. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of mobs you can use this on. We are actually getting Shattering Throw, and it's brilliant to have it back, because if you don't know what it is, it removes a magic based immunity from the target, as well as does very moderate damage. The cooldown's 3 minutes, so it's a little steep considering immunities in PvP especially, but nice to see it return nonetheless. So an example of a spell this can break is you can break a mage's ice block. So if you're near enough zoning in on the kill of that mage and the ice block, and you kind of think, oh cack, I kind of got to wait now for about 20 minutes until they get out. Throw this bad boy at them, and you should have them out, and you should be filling them in absolutely 0 time whatsoever. So another change that's coming to the Prot Warrior is that Charge and Intervene are now separate, and you have to actually talent for double charge. So I'm kind of not too happy about this, but I'll kind of see how it plays out a little bit more as we venture into the Shadowlands content eventually. But yeah, that's another change. Hamstring's also back, which is a movement speed reduction to the target. This could have been a blessing throughout the entire BFA, especially in Mythic Plus. It's basically a massive movement speed increase. It's an absolute belter in PvP, and in general I'm quite happy to see this one come back, especially after playing a warrior in Classic and getting used to using it again. It was a fun ability back then to use to kite or anything like that, or to sort of buy yourself some time, so it makes a welcome return, especially if you've got an ad that's really kicking the shit out of you in raids. Pardon me French. And now we also get Challenging Shout, which is a mass taunt, and it's great for heavy ad fights if you need to pick up the ads, or even Mythic Plus, where I can see it being really nice, most definitely on skittish weeks. So yeah, glad to see all these abilities returning. And now that we've covered these, let's go take a look at the talents very quickly. So if we take a look at the Prot Warrior talents, we can see that a lot of the talents have moved around the tree to different rows, so basically just a little bit of a shuffle. So just to review the talents, for the top row we have War Machine. Your auto attacks generate 50% more rage, and killing an enemy instantly generates 10 rage and increases your movement speed by 30% for 8 seconds. Now this is only really going to be viable when there's a lot of things to kill and movement speed's important. I don't see this being a very like sought out option to go to. Rather, I'd see Punish probably being the strongest one, so if you move across to Punish. So Shield Slam deals 20% increased damage and reduces enemies' damage against you by 3% for 9 seconds. So it says here that it may overlap. So what that basically means is it can either stack or it can be applied to numerous targets. So you could either go with the classic kind of playstyle of a warrior where you sort of multi-tabbing and you try to just, you know, keep threat on everything, and also try to keep your mitigation on everything. Or you could just stack it all onto one target like a boss and just keep the damage reduction down. So you do stack this. I've added it to about 3 stacks in a little bit of testing, which is 9% damage decrease from the target. So a very strong passive to have in your toolkit. So I think this is definitely going to be the one that I'm taking for next expansion. And then there's also Devastate, which was seen before. Your auto attacks deal an additional 182 physical damage and have 20% chance to reset the remaining cooldown on Shield Slam. It's okay, but I'd rather have Shield Slam with that damage reduction and, you know, keep myself alive a little bit more. The next row we have Double Time, which we know gives us an extra charge stack. So we reduce it the cooldown by 3% as well, but having the second charge is probably the most important part of this. Rumbling Earth. When Shockwave strikes at least 3 targets, its cooldown's reduced by 15 seconds. Now, in raids, this is probably going to be a very pick and mix talent. It depends if you have a lot of ad fights, and if you don't have a lot of ads, you don't really want to be running this because it's not really a DPS ability that you'd want to use over over other things really. Like, it does okay, but for its cooldown, you know, just leave it as it is. It's not too difficult to manage either way. But then we also have Stormbolt, which is great for Mythic Plus or even in raids where you can just randomly throw a stun out and do a little bit of damage. So yeah, either Double Time or Stormbolt, I'd say, yeah, or Rumbling Earth for heavy ad fights. And then we move to Best Serve Cold, which now does more damage with procs given with dodges or parry. And, you know, it's pretty much a no-brainer here. I think this is probably the best stat. So if you want to read it, its Revenge deals 20% more damage or 50% more damage when you successfully dodge or parry. So it also makes it cost no rage, makes it a massive DPS increase. You're not losing out on the rage that you need for your defensives. It's a win-win situation. Next on this row we have Booming Voice. Demoralizing Shout also generates 40 rage and increases the damage you deal to affected targets by 20%. I can see this being a really viable option in Mythic Pluses, or even maybe in Mythic Raiding when you've got it on farm. You just want to kill things as fast as possible. Just pop it, 20% damage increase, especially in your burning phase where you're below 20% health and you can start spamming those executes, which is fantastic. And then we've got the very beloved Dragon's Roar, which is okay, but I don't really see it working its way in. To be honest, over those two, I think Best Serve Cold and Booming Voice are going to be your two mains on that row, depending on your situation. So if we move to the next row, we also have Crackling Thunder. So that basically increases Thunderclap's radius and it reduces movement speed by an additional 10%. You could also have Bounding Stride, which reduces the cooldown on Heroic Leap by 15 seconds. And Heroic Leap now also increases your run speed for 70% for 3 seconds. Now that's not bad, especially in fights where you might need to move. It could be a very viable option. But for now I'm going to stick with Crackling Thunder. And we also have Menace. So Intimidating Shout will knock back all nearby enemies except your primary target and cause them all to cower in fear for 15 seconds instead of fleeing. This is kind of a good talent because if you're kind of under a lot of pressure and you kind of need one more ad down, or you need a certain ad down, you can throw your Intimidating Shout out there, focus down that target, and sort of just give yourself and your healer a little bit of that respite, a bit of chance to build up some defensives or some mitigation. But yeah, quite a strong choice. I don't mind it too much. I don't see it coming in handy in Mythic Raiding, maybe in Mythic Plus, but for now I think I'm going to stick to Crackling Thunder. So if we go to the next row, the main change here is Indomitable isn't just a base flat out health increase, but a minor self heal as well, making it much more viable, if not meta, on this talent row. Though it's fairly competitive, I'd say on this row it's probably the most competitive one, depending on your situation. So if we read them all in order, Never Surrender, Ignore Pain prevents 40% of 100% more damage based on your missing health. So this is quite strong. I don't mind it too much, but it kind of needs you to be in a dangerous spot to become viable. I think. Indomitable, so your maximum health is increased by 10%, and every 10 rage you spend heals you for 1% of your maximum health. So you're thinking if you're spending 30 rage, that's 3% of your maximum health. If you're spending 20, that's 2% of your maximum health, and that all adds up over the space of a long boss fight. and I do find that it's probably going to be a really strong trait leading into Mythic Plus. It's definitely an improvement on what it was, which was basically just a flat out HP increase. And then of course we have Impending Victory. So this replaces Victory Rush, but this is probably one of the better changes as well because it's more self healing. So instantly attacks a target, causing 412 damage and healing you for 30% of your maximum health. Killing an enemy that yields experience or honor and resets the cooldown of Impending Victory, and it doesn't need to be cast after you've killed something. It's there if you need it, so it's a really strong cooldown to have, and I think it's probably going to be between that and Indomitable, to be fair. So yeah, really good change to that one. Into the Fray has been nerfed a little bit in terms of the buffs it gives you, but still a solid talent choice nonetheless. However, Unstoppable Force is also there, which is probably my favourite to choose, especially as a Mythic tank for Mythic Plus tank on this guy. I don't really do raids all that much. But yeah, Avatar increases the damage of your Thunderclap by 30% and reduces its cooldown by 50. This is very strong in Mythic Plus. Obviously, it's been one of the stronger choices throughout BFA, especially for the DPS output. So if we take a look at Ravager, this throws a whirling weapon at the target location and chases nearby enemies. It does a fair amount of damage for what it does, but it also has the problem of if enemies tend to flay off, or if one enemy tends to run away and it's targeting a certain enemy, it might take it away from the area where it's going to do the most damage. I think it could just be far too easily tweaked to be a permanent choice in the talents that you choose. So Unstoppable Force is definitely going to take it on this row for me. And on the final row, I always take Anger Management. Anger Management, if you don't know, every 10 rage you spend reduces the remaining cooldown on Avatar and Shield Wall by 1 second. We also have Heavy Repercussions. Shield Slam generates 3 more rage and extends the duration of Shield Block by 1 second. Not too bad. It's a good way of keeping your mitigation up, but I kind of just fish for those Avatar windows where I can kind of just go ham and, you know, enjoy myself a little bit. I feel like that's what the Prot Warrior is all about, to be fair. And Bolster. So Last Stand's cooldown is reduced by 1 minute and grants you a shield block effect for its duration. This is a fairly strong one, but I feel like it's a big cooldown, whereas I'd rather have the passive to get Avatar back up and running when I can, and probably see how that works with some of the legendaries in Shadowlands as well, because obviously there's one that's going to give you another buff every time you can get your Avatar up. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that anyway. So that's just about it from me, guys. Let me know if you enjoyed the video by either leaving a like or maybe a comment down below. If you're wanting to see more overviews of the tanks coming in Shadowlands, let me know in the comments as well. And also, if you just want to see some, you know, more tank guides when it comes to Shadowlands, like for raid tanking or even Mythic Plus tanking, then subscribe, because that's the way you're going to be notified. But until then, guys, hopefully I could catch you on my stream maybe. If you don't know where it is, you can also always check my description box, or you can either check my YouTube channel, it's linked there. Until next time though, guys, thank you very much for watching. Take it easy, and bye now.